Hello everyone. Today we'll be exploring the nervous system. But before we delve into the details, I want you to use your imagination to envision a scenario where our planet is ruled by another species, much like in the movie Planet of the Apes. In this scenario, the apes gain hyperintelligence due to the modification of a disease called the simian flu, which later spreads to humans in a similar way to rabies and Ebola. The virus either kills its victims or changes the way they think and behave, making them erratic and animal-like in behavior and unable to speak. This occurs by affecting their nervous system and brain, similar to how rabies affects humans.
What is rabies? Is it exactly like what we see in the movies? In short, the answer is no, not exactly. It is transmitted to humans through accidental animal bites or scratches. So how exactly does rabies spread between people and animals? Well, the rabies virus is mainly transmitted through saliva of infected animals such as dogs, raccoons, and bats. When the infected animal bites another animal or a human, the rabies virus enters the body through the wound. The period before the rabies virus spreads to the peripheral nerves is called the incubation period, which may last for weeks. During this phase, no symptoms manifest since the virus is localized to the site of injury. As the virus moves throughout the body, it replicates and visible symptoms begin to appear. Some of the symptoms in humans include physical pain, fatigue, fever, and agitation. Although the rabies virus affects many parts of the body, its major target is the nervous system. The replicating rabies virus first invades the peripheral nervous system, where it travels through the neurons until it reaches the central nervous system. After reaching the central nervous system, the virus travels up the spinal cord and into the brain, where it rapidly multiplies. The major effect of the rabies virus on the brain involves inflammation. So how does this present in people infected with rabies? The brain is the main command center for our entire body. It controls important functions such as digestion, breathing, speaking, and emotions. When rabies takes over the emotional control areas, the patient may feel aggression and anger erratically.
Now it's time for the first question. Which of the following best describes the mode of transmission of the rabies virus to humans? A. Indigestion of contaminated foods or water. B. Inhalation of airborne particles. C. Direct contact with infected saliva through bites or scratches. Or D. Transmission through mosquito bites. The answer is C. Direct contact with infected saliva through bites or scratches. Let's get back to the topic at hand. Since rabies affects the skin and goes into the neuromuscular cells of the central nervous system, it results in cognitive impairment, delusions, hallucinations, and even psychosis.
Let's talk about the nervous system. The main functions of the nervous system are gathering, processing, and organizing information. It involves neurons and glia, which are supporting cells that help regulate the functioning of neurons. Hydras and other cnidarians are the simplest animals with nervous systems. In cnidarians, interconnected neurons form a nerve net, which controls the contraction and expansion of the gastrovascular cavity. Neurons that carry out integration form a central nervous system, and neurons that transport information into and out of the central nervous system form the peripheral nervous system. In vertebrates, such as humans, the brain and the spinal cord form the central nervous system, which contains gray and white matter. Gray matter is primarily made up of neuron cell bodies, while white matter consists of bundled axons. Now, let's talk about the peripheral nervous system. It is like a network of roads connecting the central nervous system to every corner of the body. The peripheral nervous system includes all the nerves outside the brain and the spinal cord. The afferent peripheral nervous system carries sensory information from sensory receptors towards the central nervous system. It detects stimuli from the environment or within the body and sends this information to the central nervous system for processing. Sensory neurons are responsible for transmitting signals related to touch, temperature, pain, pressure, and other sensory modalities. On the other hand, the efferent peripheral nervous system carries motor commands from the central nervous system to muscles, glands, and other effector organs. It is divided into two divisions: the somatic motor division, which controls voluntary movements, and the autonomic motor division, which includes involuntary actions. Furthermore, the autonomic division can be divided into the sympathetic and parasympathetic divisions. Imagine you are stranded in the Everglades and you encounter a panther. Activation of the sympathetic division is responsible for the fight or flight response you may feel. Conversely, the parasympathetic division generally causes opposite responses, as it is responsible for resting and digesting.
The brain controls everything that we do and how our body functions. The different areas of the brain control the different parts of our body. The largest part of the brain is called the cerebrum or forebrain. The cerebrum is divided into hemispheres, the left and the right hemisphere. The left hemisphere controls the right part of our body, and the right hemisphere controls the left part. Each hemisphere is further divided into 4 lobes. The frontal lobe controls our speech, problem solving, movement, personality and sensations. The temporal lobe is where we process sounds and where our memories are stored. The parietal lobe is where touch, temperature and pain is processed. It's where we recognise objects and process information when people speak to us. The occipital lobe processes what we see. At the back of the brain is the cerebellum or hindbrain. The cerebellum controls our balance, posture and coordination. The lower part of the brain is called the brain stem. It controls functions that we don't usually think about, such as breathing, sneezing, coughing, swallowing, and our heartbeat.
Round 1. Easy. Which cup is the correct one? I will reveal it in 3, 2, 1. Round 2. Medium. Which cup is the correct one? I will reveal it in 3, 2, 1. Round 3. Hard. Which cup is the correct one? I will reveal it in 3, 2, 1.
Which parts of your brain were being used to keep track of the cups? A. The temporal lobe, B. The frontal lobe, C. The occipital lobe, or D. The cerebellum? The correct answers are A, B, and C.
For these systems to function properly, there are things called neurons that are responsible for processing and transmitting information through electrical and chemical signals. An action potential is a crucial part of this process, representing a sudden, significant change in the neuron's memory potential that allows it to send signals along its axon to communicate with other neurons, muscles, or glands. This change is initiated when a neuron receives a stimulus that is strong enough to cause the memory potential to reach a threshold, leading to the opening of voltage-gated sodium channels. Sodium ions then flood into the neuron, causing depolarization, which is the process of the memory potential becoming more positive. Following this influx, voltage-gated potassium channels open, allowing potassium ions to exit the neuron and initiate repolarization, bringing the memory potential back towards its resting state. Sometimes the outflow of potassium can cause an overshoot called hyperpolarization. The neuron's memory potential is then restored to its resting state, which is a stable negative charge when the neuron is inactive. This occurs through the action of the sodium-potassium pump, which actively transports sodium out of the neuron and potassium into it, maintaining the balance of ions across the membrane. The resting potential is typically around negative 70 millivolts and is essential for the neuron to be ready for the next action potential. Neurons communicate with the body by forming networks that allow us to sense the environment, think, make decisions, and control our muscles. Sensory neurons carry signals from sensory receptors to the central nervous system, while motor neurons transmit commands from the central nervous system to muscles and glands, and interneurons found within the central nervous system process information and coordinate responses. Communication between neurons occurs at the synapses, where the action potential triggers the release of neurotransmitters into the synaptic cleft, and these chemicals then bind to receptors on the next neuron, propagating the signal.
Which division of the peripheral nervous system causes the flight or fight response to a threat? A. The somatic division, B. The sympathetic division, or C. The parasympathetic division? The correct answer is B. Which part of the neuron is responsible for transmitting electrical impulses away from the cell body? A. Axon, B. Dendrite, C. Synapse, D. Myelin sheath. The correct answer is A.